What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. I'm Love Coach Scott Katamas. I am your host, and we have a really powerful show tonight, all about the incredible breakthroughs that are happening as science and spirituality come together, and we learn that there are so many amazing things that we as human beings can do. You know, we started this theme on Wednesday night when we had the incredible Zenka Caro and some of her key people from LightNet, including my co-host for the evening, the one and only Alan Steinfeld. I've been jokingly calling it Alan Steinfeld Week because he was on Wednesday night and again tonight. Welcome back, Alan.
Well, Scott, it's always fun to co-host and be on this Global Peace Drive. You know, that opening song just rings right through me. It is the theme of our community, and I'm happy to be part of this community. This is a growing movement that keeps expanding, and thanks to 4.5 years of your work. So thanks, Scott.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And we've got some really wonderful people with us that you've brought on, including a mutual friend of both of ours, the one and only Mitchell Rabin. Hello, Mitchell.
Mitchell J. Rabin, unmute yourself. Mitchell.
Okay.
I know Mitchell.
Thank you, my dear friend. And Alan, my old-time brother and friend. Great to be here with you both.
Well, it started because me and Mitchell, or Mitchell rather, invited me to co-host Bruce Lipton in New York, August 3rd. That's sort of a little background theme for this. And we're going to be talking about Bruce Lipton's work and have other people talking about their conjunction with Bruce's work as far as reprogramming the subconscious. So Bruce's theme, as you mentioned, is the convergence of science and spirit. And so that's going to be the overall theme for a lot of tonight's talks. So thank you, Mitch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great to be here.
Well, and you guys have this great event that you're doing in New York. Go ahead and put up the poster for a moment.
Yes.
You know, Bruce Lipton really has become one of the major figures of raising consciousness. And you guys have pulled off doing an event in New York. I'm a little envious that it's on the wrong coast, you guys, but
very funny, very funny. It's actually where Bruce is originally from, Scott. So it's in a sense in honor of his birthplace, in a way. So
he grew up in Westchester County, Bruce, in a town called Pleasantville. His father or grandfather was an immigrant who started a little catering store. And now he's a world-known professor because of that lineage. So
exactly, right. You know, Eastern European, you know, Jewish
lineage. In New York, I'm going to put the website to get tickets, which is betterworld.net/events. -2, and I'll put that in the chat because August 3rd, we really want a big crowd for Bruce to 6 hours he's going to be talking, and it's an opus and it's a masterclass in
Yeah.
this biology of belief, changing your belief systems and changing your programming. So I'm putting that in the chat. And
It should
So
be
August
said.
3rd, anybody who can make it to New York, that is going to be
Yeah.
amazing. And not only do you guys have Bruce Lipton, but you have one of my absolute favorite human beings and someone that our entire Global Peace Tribe audience loves, because she not only sings on the show, she co-hosts shows with me like you do, Alan. And of course, I'm talking about the wonderful Kristin Hoffmann. And wonderful as she is, she's going to be singing live with you on August 3rd. And she made an opening video just for tonight. And so we're going to play that as our kind of opening musical number. But also, this is going to be a great way for all of us to drop into the spirit and the theme of tonight's show. So with no further ado, here is our beloved Kristin Hoffmann.
Hello, dear ones of the awakening world. It's such an honor to be with you. I love this, our topic tonight, transforming the ego mind into infinite possibilities. I think we notice when the ego mind is activated because we experience a lot more separation and fear. When we feel ourselves trying to calculate how we can get ahead or continue to thrive, and a lot of the fears that come up around those subjects, or fearing that, oh, someone's gonna get ahead of us, or get the job that we want, whatnot, we are in the ego mind. And when we're in that mind, we're experiencing a lot of divisiveness. I think it's very important to really go back to the core of our humanity and realize that we are all connected and that we're all in this together. And when we can really start to resonate with that oneness, with the virtues that connect us at the core, immediately all kinds of possibilities open up where we can find greater collaboration with each other, positive possibility, even with people and beings that we would usually think we have nothing in common with, or even who have totally different belief systems from ours. We can begin to synergize and find possibility where, when we're in our ego mind, everything is closed off. So I thought I would play this song that I feel is very important for these times. I know I've played it before in the Awakening World, but I just feel like this message couldn't be repeated enough right now. When the hate comes, let there be love. Let's practice this together. When we feel that ego mind, when we feel that separation or even expressions of hate, can we challenge ourselves to open, expand, and let in the love of who we are, the love of our connectivity, and discover the possibilities that exist when we open. Here we go. When the hate comes, let there be love. And when the night falls, let there be peace. And when the dark cloud over our heads releases its grasp on our hearts and our souls, may we remember we're connected at the core. One people, connected at the core of it all. And when the fear comes, let there when people were whole, connected at the core of it all, when people were whole, connected at the core, at the core, connected at the core of it all, of it all. Love you all. Stay connected. Remember your humanity. Remember that when you catch yourself going into that narrow ego mind, all you have to do is remember to open, expand a little bit more. Call in the love, and all of a sudden, infinite possibilities blossom. Blessings.
Wow.
I just love that woman so much.
Wow. That's one of her incredible. I mean, they're all great, but she really put it all in there for that one. Wouldn't you say, Mitchell? Unmute, Mitchell, unmute.
Right to the core.
Right.
Right to the core.
Yeah.
That's her way, Kristin. That's why I invited her to be there with us and to open it up, because and she's been on a number of the Earth Day events that I have been hosting for the past several years. And you know that, Scott.
Yeah.
We had that section on last year.
But also what she said, not just her voice, which is fantastic, but her dropping into a place to really deliver that is that same place that music comes from. I mean, she lives that. She is. So I know you know her pretty well, Scott. So
yeah, Kristin really does live it. And you know what? I love that song and what she did so much. At the very, very end of the show, I'm going to play it again. And she sent me the lyrics. So I'll put the lyrics in the chat box. And because I think it's just the perfect bookend for the show.
Beautiful.
We're about to watch a video from Bruce Lipton. And thank you guys. I know they both tried to get Bruce to join us for the show, and he just got back from traveling to the moon or somewhere.
Yeah. I tried, Scott. I tried.
I know you did, Mitchell. But we're gonna play this 15-minute video, but I'm gonna stop it a couple times and take questions and comments from you guys, from the audience. Maybe if Tara or Hope have anything they want to say. I forgot to mention Hope Fitzgerald and Gary Malkin are with us tonight. So pay attention, watch, and if there are thoughts, comments, when I stop, we can talk a little bit about what we're seeing. Do one of you want to introduce the video?
Yeah, it's a video I put together from an interview I did with Bruce, but I do an opening where me and Mitchell present Bruce because he's coming to this event that we're hosting in New York. And if anyone's on the East Coast, really join us August 3rd, Saturday, and be part of a 6-hour masterclass that Bruce is doing. And he gives it his all. So when he's not lecturing for 6 hours a day, I think he just wants to stay quiet. That's why he's not here tonight.
But it also should be said that we're looking to open up the live stream. So even when people cannot get themselves to New York, although we hope you do, it's going to be available. We just haven't got that set up yet. In fact, next on Monday, Kristin and Roland and I, he's our videographer, will be meeting at the church, maybe Alan too. And we're going to get that together. So anybody, anywhere will be able to tune in.
Okay, so Mitchell, since you guys are going to live stream it, but you don't have that together yet, please, of course, make sure you send me the link and the information for how people can, because the majority of our audience is not going to make it to New York, but many of them will pick up the live stream. So send me the link and the details so that I can promote that to our audience. And next Saturday night, I will present that to everybody.
Excellent.
Make sure we had a sellout before we live streamed it. So
we're so close.
I also want to say it's a Bruce Lipton weekend, plus August 3rd is him talking 6 hours. And then there's a luncheon. There's still spots for this private exclusive luncheon with Bruce in upstate New York at a beautiful estate. That's but on Monday, Amma, the Hugging Saints, is going to be in New York City on the 5th. So if you make it this whole Bruce Lipton Amma weekend, you can't miss. Okay.
There you go. And actually, Amma has been where I am in the Bay Area. So a lot of my friends have been going, a lot of hugs have happened. Okay, let's get to the video. Let's get to the video. Here we go.
And Mitchell Rabin of Better World are very happy to be bringing world-renowned biologist, mystic, philosopher Bruce Lipton to New York Saturday, August 3rd for an epic Convergence of Science and Spirit masterclass. And the renowned songwriter, singer Kristin Hoffmann will do the opening number for the event. Thanks, Kristin. On this show, I asked Bruce to tell me what the 6-hour workshop in New York will all be about.
You know what it's all about? Knowledge is power, but here's what makes it interesting. Knowledge of self, which turns into self-empowerment. To become the creator instead of the presumed victim is all this new science. The first thing I will show you is how life works. How a cell is shaped, and the genetics of the cell is shaped by the interaction with the environment. And how by us interacting appropriately with the environment, we too can conform and become part of the garden. A garden has a very interesting definition. A garden is not a battleground. A garden is the height of cooperation. I said, we came from a garden, turned it into a battleground, destroyed the garden, and now we're saying, how we get out? And I say, you better look around and say, we have to cooperate with the garden. We have to cooperate with each other. We have to cooperate with the plants, the animals, the air, the water. We got to do that because we lost that and we're destroying the environment. So that's the first step right away. And as I said, NASA scientists even given us a year, 2 decades, boom, out of here if we don't do it now. So we're on the wake up course right now of doing this, okay? And I said, well, first of all, your life is 95% programmed. I said, yeah, I know that. I go, okay, but I said, what are my programs? I go, oh, that's where there's a problem. I go, why? I said, well, the programming started 3 months before you were born. So I ask you, hey, Alan, what program did you get before you were born? I wasn't there. Then you were programmed the whole year from 0 to 1. Tell me the program you got when you were 0. I wasn't there. Why? Consciousness didn't kick in yet. You got another whole year program from 1 to 2. Tell me what you got when you were 1.5. I don't know. So guess what? We are unaware of most of our programs because when they were downloaded, we weren't conscious. Then I say, oh my God, then how am I going to heal my life? How can I fix my program? Now I give you the simple answer. First thing is this. 95% of your life is coming from the program, so your life is a printout of your program. Okay. So why is that important? I go, look at your life right at this moment and recognize this. The things that you like that come into your life, things that come in, you go, I like that, I like that. They come in because you have a program to acknowledge those things. But, and this is the one I want you to pay attention to, the things that you wish for and desire, but you have to struggle. You have to work hard. You have to sweat over it. I'm going to make it happen. I'm working on it. I'm going to make it happen. I'm working real hard. Why are you working hard for those destinations, which are mainly health, relationships, job, and all that stuff? Why are you working so hard? The answer is, Whatever that destination is, and you're trying to get there and you're not getting there, it's because the program you got installed in your subconscious does not support that destination. So all of a sudden I said, what do I need to change? I say, where are you struggling? Why? Because struggle is a sign of no power. No power means your program doesn't give you that power. And that's why all of a sudden I said, well, now I know where to go. So let me list 3 ways in briefest understanding. Okay. I said the first 2 ways are the natural ways how we got the program. I said, how'd you get the program? I said, first 7 years, brain was operating below consciousness vibration called theta, imagination, but hypnosis. You want to change your life? Hypnosis. I said, do I have to see a hypnotherapist? I go, no. And why not? Because I said, the vibrations of the brain when we're awake, like right now, and working hard is beta. When you are now stop work, go home, relax, take it easy, then it slows down. The vibration is now called alpha. The moment alpha goes to the next vibration, theta, is the moment you fall asleep. You lost consciousness. Consciousness got disconnected when you were in theta. But theta is hypnosis. So you put earbuds in or earphones on, and you play self-help programs that you can get from bookstores and online and all that. Programs to make relationships, programs to do better in job, programs to get healthy. You put these programs at night. The moment you fall asleep is when the program starts working, actually. While you're awake, you can hear some of the program. But the moment you fall asleep, it's theta, it's the subconscious that hears the program. It's called self-hypnosis. Repeat this a number of times. Why? Theta is not a long-lasting phase. It's pretty short before you go to delta. So you got to repeat, repeat, repeat. So yeah, you got the first 7 years of programming through hypnosis. But you learned after age 7, you learn how to drive a car, play a music instrument, ride a bike, do your whatever things you learned. I said, how did you learn these? Because they're now habits. Well, habits. Driving a car, you don't have to relearn it. You already learned it. So I say, after age 7, I make new programs by repetition. Repeat something, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And the mind takes a repetition and then makes a program out of it. The new age silliness of it is fake it till you make it. You're not a happy person? You want to be a happy person? All day long, say to yourself, all day long, in the middle of your misery, you say, I am happy. I am happy. Repeat that to yourself. After a number of days of doing this, you don't have to do it anymore because you'll wake up and the program will be installed. You'll wake up happy without even having to do anything because repetition, habituation, habit is how you add programs after age 7. Okay. Now,
so I'm going to just stop it there because, wow, that's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, who wants to comment on that?
Well, I just want to say that's some of the context of what Bruce is going to be talking about. It's not just biology, it's a biology of belief, which was the name of his best-selling book. So what you believe is the reality you create, and the beliefs are so deeply ingrained to us, like he said, that we're not even conscious. And of course, as Joe Dispenza says, we create from our beliefs. So what Bruce is trying to show us here in this 6 hours on this Saturday afternoon is to go back into our subconscious mind. And you do this by seeing, well, what's not working in your life, and then actually reprogram. And there's another technique he'll show us, which is a kind of merging of left and right brain. So that's one thing. I'm curious, Tara, you deal with people as a therapist. What do you think of what Bruce said there?
And Ellen, since our audience hasn't met Tara yet, do you want to briefly introduce her?
Tara is a clinical psychologist. She's worked at Harvard, at Cornell. She's one of the foremost leaders in eating disorders, and she has the book on eating disorder therapy. Of course, having healed herself, I hope that's not too much information, but she is really world recognized as a leading psychologist in the field of this type of therapy and restructuring your conscious and subconscious mind. So, Tara, what do you think about this?
Alan, thanks so much for the introduction. Yeah, so my professional life and work is in eating disorders, suicide, self-injury. I was on faculty at Cornell's Medical School where I developed a treatment, as Alan mentioned, for eating disorders. And what I learned developing a treatment for eating disorders, which, by the way, is an egoic-based illness, right? So people with eating disorders have an ideal of thinness, which is rooted in a fear of not being good enough. So what was really interesting to me and what relates to what Bruce said is that people with eating disorders are not aware that they have pathology most of the time. They think if they just lost weight, that all of a sudden they would be happy and fulfilled, and it's this bottomless pit. So I originally started writing a book called Blind Spots because when we have these egoic ideals, we don't have awareness of our own programming. And so through this development of the treatment, I realized that I could take out eating disorder content and look at the process of transcending the ego more generally across different domains, and that there are higher consciousness ideals that we can work towards. So for instance, moving away from the egoic ideal of thinness, we could work towards the ideal of lovingly nourishing the body while accepting the way that it looks as an alternative, right? And so it is a several part process, making these subconscious programming programs aware, becoming aware of them, and then mindfully working towards higher consciousness. So that's what we'll be talking about more today. And thank you, Alan.
Oh, but that's also part of what Bruce is. Let me bring Mitchell into this conversation because Mitchell's had many conversations with Bruce Lipton. And Mitchell, what's your approach, and what did you think of how Bruce is going to approach this on August 3rd? What do you make of it?
Of course, I don't have to tell you, Alan, how much I adore Bruce's work. And I put into the chat, actually, my first interview with him that happened as far back as 1994. It seems like just yesterday, but we are sitting there as kind of wee lads, and I just got my first impression of his breakthrough understanding. And I've been saying for decades at this point that he should have won the Nobel Prize for medicine because of his breakthrough technology and understanding that was exemplified in his first book, The Biology of Belief. But you know, when I first met Bruce, I was also involved in something called total biology. And as a psychotherapist, I was invited by a spiritual teacher, actually. He was a student of a very interesting French Moroccan MD, PhD, named Dr. Claude Sabat, who developed something called the total biology, which was an offshoot of something called the German New Medicine of Dr. Hammer. Tara, are you familiar with that work at all?
I'm not.
Oh, all right. I think you would love it. It's all about the mind-body interface and the way they speak to each other, and the way emotional conflict and trauma and subconscious programs really set the tone for the life of the body. And Bruce has actually shown up on stage with some of these folks from the Total Biology Network. Well, I brought total biology actually to the United States. And it's all about what Bruce was describing as 0 to 1, what happens in the womb, the energy field from the mother and the mother's mother, if she approves or disapproves of the wife, the mother's choice of husband. All of that energy, interestingly, gets programmed into, and Scott, you would appreciate this with all the couples work that you do. It gets programmed into the child vibrationally. It's too small. The fetus is too small to understand language directly, but it does understand vibration. It understands that level of intelligence that the whole universe operates on. So anyway, this was part of my attraction to Bruce's work and his deep understanding of that original programming that happens, and the good news that he always delivers, and he did in that wonderful clip that you did with him, Alan, is that there's hope. There really is a way through of freeing ourselves up from the trauma of what usually happens in the womb, and moving on into a life that we really create ourselves. And some people in the chat have talked about how their lives have gotten really on track because of this work. And yes, that's what we're going to be talking about on August 3rd.
And Mitchell, you're right. There is hope. And she's right here in the audience with us. And we love Hope Fitzgerald. A big thanks to Gary Malkin, who's also with us, who first introduced us to Hope. And she's become a wonderful part of the show. She's been on a few times, including recently. Hope, I know you have some thoughts about the little clip we just saw.
Well, thank you. I'm just loving everything that's being said tonight because it all falls under the umbrella of change and how do we change? And that has been a fascination of mine forever. It's what brought me to become a neurofeedback practitioner 30 years ago, to find a way to work with the brain states that Bruce talked about and actually build new neural pathways. And there are multiple ways to do that. Meditation, long-term meditators have built new neural pathways. I like neurofeedback because it kind of it's like putting it on steroids. You get quicker results. And you find as you go through the neurofeedback process that certain things just fall away, certain behaviors, certain interests, certain stories. And years later, I had this beautiful energy downloaded to me through a series of visions called the Infinity Wave. And the Infinity Wave also is a way to move through change more elegantly in a state of flow. And it's something that you imagine, but it's a very real thing. It's palpable. And it also helps to release and flush out old stories that are no longer useful, really without a lot of struggle. And that's what I love. Let's do it fast and let's do it the easy way if we can. And this is how Gary and I came together to do our work, which is called You Awake, Mastering the Art of Change. Again, we are so fascinated with this aspect of how do we change it? How do we make it work quickly? And how do we make it last? So here he is, Mr.
Since you brought up Gary, I figured I'd put him on camera. Of course, our audience knows and loves Gary, and we're looking forward to hearing from both of you a little bit later on today. But one question for you, Hope. Isn't it true that we receive a genetic download of the trauma of our ancestors going back 7 generations while we're still in the womb?
That is what I have heard. I can't say it for sure, but it seems to be the case. You know, I am a product of my grandmother's eggs, you know, and so on and so forth. So I believe that's so, but I also believe that we came here with a plan, and sometimes our plan involves breaking that chain. And I believe, like Bruce has taught us, that we can overcome that DNA or that genetic predisposition. That's what, when I first started listening to Bruce years ago, got me so excited. I was like, yes, I knew we had this potential if we were interested in it and curious about it, that we could break that chain of command, so to speak. And I like that because I just on a more energetic, spiritual level, to me, if we get to break one of those links of that genetic chain, we're cleansing the past and cleansing the forward of that lineage. I can't prove it, but that's what it feels like. And whether I do it for myself, which I have, and it's no small task, but man, oh man, you know, and that's what sort of gets me excited. I could more easily do it for that purpose than even for myself. If I know that I'm doing all this to help my lineage forwards and backwards, man, that you know, that feels pretty good.
I just want to add one more point about Bruce is that he talked about, and I put him in the epilogue of this book because it was so important. I thought the synergy of awareness. So it's not just the individual. He said in this interview I did, we are not humans until we create humanity. That's when we all come together to know that we're all part of this greater superorganism. And when we create humanity, where we all feel that connection of super connectivity of consciousness, then we're ready to speak as a oneness to talk to other onenesses out there. So that's the evolution. And that was such an important moment when he gave me that revelation. I think, so we're really not going to make contact until we become the humanity that we're meant to be. And that's affected me. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to go back to the video. I do want to mention one more thing. It's a belief that I have. Some of my global peace tribers have heard me say this before. You know, our ancestors made incredible sacrifices for us to have the freedom and the abundance that we have today. And they were so busy crossing the plains, fighting the wars, working 3 jobs, and they only had one vision, and that was a better life for their offspring. And we are living that better life now. But they didn't have the tools or the time to manage things like alcoholism, low self-esteem, domestic violence, all the issues that maybe we do carry in our genetics, but we have now the freedom and the abundance and the consciousness. And I feel like it's a full loop. Our ancestors gave us these amazing lives. And if you really just think for a moment, could your grandfather or great-grandfather comprehend Whole Foods Market? I mean, really, it would be impossible for our ancestors just a couple generations ago to comprehend the incredible abundance that we have walking into Whole Foods Market. But our job now is to pay it back by using the tools, working with Tara and Hope and the different people you meet on this show to work on whatever our epigenetic ancestral challenges might be, whether it's alcoholism or eating disorders or low self-esteem or whatever it may be. So I just wanted to put that out there because it's a strong belief that I have. And let's go back and hear a little bit more from Bruce, and then we'll come back and hear more from all of you.
That was a great piece, Scott, what you just said.
Oh, thank you, Alan.
Both of those take time. And there's a phrase called necessity is the mother of invention. I say, what's a necessity? We have to evolve very quickly. We have 2 decades to change the entire world. We need a better way of changing programs. And it's called energy psychology, a different modality than conventional talk therapy, cognitive therapy. Because the idea of the other therapy is let's understand how you got your program. Let's go back and, oh, your mother did this and your father did that and your friend did that, and you're rebuilding the program. I go, you don't need to rebuild the program. You already have the program. Going back, killing the messenger is too late. You already got the message. So going backwards is a waste of your time. The question is, well, I want to go forward. So I say, well, how do you know what forward is? I say, this is what I want. This is what I wish and desire. I say, well, how do you put it in? And the answer is, energy psychology is a form of psychology that frequently engages something called super learning. Super learning? Yeah. A child under 7 is a super learner. It could just experience something once and the rest of its life, it's got a program from that. After age 7, learning is a lot more difficult. And the idea about it has to do with right and left hemispheres of the brain. Left hemisphere, intellectual words. Right hemisphere, emotional pictures. Okay? What's the point? Under age 7, they work together. Every life experience under age 7 has an intellectual component and an emotional component to that experience. After age 7, they're physically connected, but they're functionally disconnected. After age 7, it's called ultraradian, like a wave. I go, what does it mean? For 2 or 3 hours, you're in the intellectual side. Then for 2 or 3 hours, you're in the emotional side. Then for 2 or 3 hours in the intellectual, emotional. It's a wave. but you're not in both at the same time again. The moment they separated, we lost super learning. So I said, well, but you can bring super learning back by integrating right and left hemispheres. Ooh, how do you do that? Well, there's a posture, and it's called the whole brain posture. I'll just very briefly say how it works. Simply this. My right hand is controlled by my left hemisphere. That's in the sense of the nervous system. The opposite side of the body is controlled by the opposite side of the mind. Okay? So my right hand controlled by my left hemisphere. I move it all around here. My left hemisphere is controlling all of this. But if my right arm crosses the midline and now operating over here, it's in the domain of this hemisphere. So if you cross both your arms, go like that maybe, then what are you doing? You're integrating right and left hemispheres at the same time. And it's very calming. In fact, not just your arms being crossed, but your ankles. Think about it this way. You've taught yourself, if you next time you start to relax and you notice, if you're sitting in a chair, guess what? You're sitting with your ankles crossed. Why? Because it brings balance to the right and left hemisphere, which is calming. So if you cross your ankles and cross your wrists simultaneously, you're causing right and left hemispheres to integrate simultaneously. Then you can make a statement and say it to yourself and download that statement in a super learning moment, just like that kid under 7. And 5, 10, 15 minutes of repeating that statement, you walk away completely different. Program has changed.
Great.
That's a heck of a tip, huh?
Yes, yes, that is a big part of what Bruce is now teaching, which is fantastic. So you can actually redo your programs right there, and he leads people through that, and you say something positive with your right brain connected, and it helps undo the program. And Mitchell, you know what Bruce, this technique by Bruce. What do you think of it?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It fits into something called, as he said, super learning, and something known as the brain gym, where this idea of the integration of the right and left hemispheres has been going on, and people have been playing with this for a long time. The use of light and sound machines. Alan, as you know, I used to use the flotation tank as another way of bringing together the two hemispheres of the brain. And there's a whole other dimension that I've spoken with Bruce about, and he's also very familiar with, which is the work of the HeartMath Institute. And that has to do not just with brain coherence, but with heart coherence. And when you get these two brains working together in harmony, then you're really explosive relative to reprogramming and rewiring. Hope was talking about the rewiring and the recircuiting of the brain. Of course, you know, Alan and I know Joe Dispenza from way back, where we've been both involved in that kind of neurocircuitry reprogramming. So
Right.
That's what I would say about that.
That's great. Gary, you have your hand raised. Were you going to say something, or?
Yeah, I was. God, I'm so happy to see that technique, because it's basically a technique to achieve what I've been devoting my life to in the last 20 years, which is how does the original state change of music, the state change medicine of music, actually create, or can it create, conditions within which all of our aspects can correct themselves into flow, body, mind, heart, spirit, and soul, into a kind of integration that Bruce was talking about with that technique. And you'll hear more about that when Hoop and I speak. But I love the fact that there's this biological kind of gateway that you can open it. The tools that I've been working with has been the vibrational time dilation tool called music, right? Where you can extend time. And in that natural extension of time with spaciousness and beauty, our natural state is to align into an awakening to the unitive field. So I love hearing that there's yet another tool that I can do while I'm doing all of my other practices that'll actually even create greater results. So that's all I wanted to say.
No, I think music is so powerful because the words are the left brain, the sounds are the right brain. You have a song with music and boom, you're a whole brain being. And so you're absolutely right.
And you know, this is a thing though. This is the reason why I have a little defect around listening to songs. The first time I hear a song, all I hear is the music. It's like gobbledygook. I cannot understand. That's why I've devoted my life for the last 25 years to actually interviewing wisdom keepers who speak from such a depth of wholeness, flow, and coherence on every scale. Coherence, heart coherence, soul coherence, somatic intimacy, somatic coherence. So, that's why I've devoted my life to people speaking with spaciousness, because my heart and soul can't catch up with the speed that we're speaking up right now often. And when I slow down, like this integration happens, and it means a wholly different experience to me, so, and hopefully to others as well.
Hope, did you have something? And then I'll talk to Tara. Hope, did you want to say something about that as well?
Well, I mean, Gary and I are on the same page about this for sure. And I only use Gary's music now when I do my meditations, because it immediately puts us in a change state, a state where we are available for change. And so that's why I use it exclusively.
Right. Tara, what do you think of Bruce's bio mind hack?
Oh, I just want to echo what Hope and Gary said. Absolutely. It's a beautiful technique. And I'm thinking at many different levels, right? So I'm coming into this spiritual and consciousness space from being a clinical psychologist working in psychiatric hospitals on inpatient units. So I think about how we're all walking around having this trauma, et cetera. And as Bruce said in the video, it's not that we have to go back in time and spend so much time unpacking, in, for instance, a cognitive therapy session, these various traumas. And I also think that it's important to kind of express that out. There are all sorts of beautiful evidence-based treatments like exposure therapy, et cetera, that can help us heal these traumas, and also at the same time get to these higher states of consciousness with music, et cetera. And Bruce had spoken to the use of repetition. And I like the idea of reprogramming the mind with repetition. And also, first, instead of just kind of doing it in this rote way, using music, using vibration to lift us up, and then reprogram really mindfully and specifically from that state. And I think that is a really powerful 1-2 punch, meaning dealing with the trauma, processing it, but not spending too much time in the past, and really reprogramming the mind with the use of music towards higher consciousness, looking forward.
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tara's going to be bringing some of her own special ways of doing that later in the show. So yes.
I want to acknowledge one of our wonderful global peace tribers, Carol Craig. She's a teacher, and she said that she's been teaching these tools and techniques in her math and science classes for years. So thank you, Carol, for being on the cutting edge of that. That's really cool. All right, we're going to watch the final part of this video and then come back to our wonderful presenters.
Program has changed. So it's called energy psychology. I can't go into all the modalities, but on my website, brucelipton.com, under resources, about 25 energy psychology modalities, a descriptor and a website. So you can look it up. What can I say? I can lead you to water. I can't make you drink it. But if I lead you there and you drink it, you could possibly then change your entire life. And that's what it's all about.
On August 3rd, Bruce is going through all this development in much more detail. And I think it will be a life-changing event for some people, because you're giving them the foundation. Of course, they have to do the work. Thank you for sharing your time here and your enthusiasm and your love of people and your desire to help people change.
Yeah, because the more people that are living heaven on earth is more I'm living heaven on earth. Because if the people around me are living heaven on earth, I'm in the middle of it. I'm going to be sharing it with them. And that's what we want all people to do. I want you to have your power back, because I don't trust the government. I don't trust the corporations. I trust you. Because you and I and all of us online want the same thing: happiness, health, a world of harmony, love, something to do that gives us our creative juices, action. We all want the same thing. Why don't we have it?
So the answer then to the world's problems is work on yourself, change your program, put that out into the field so other people may pick up on what you've done, like you, Bruce, you've changed your field and you're changing other people's fields because your field is emanating, but they have to do the work, of course. Well, it's so great to see you haven't lost that enthusiasm, and actually you've gained it as you get happier, as you change people's lives, as you change your own life. I recognize the first time I read what you had to say, I knew this guy had something, and you didn't even know what you had at the time because
Epigenetics was not a science when I did the research to show epigenetics. It wasn't a science. I was the only guy out there saying, hey, the mind is controlling genes. Everybody go, oh, you're crazy, Lipton. And therefore I was relegated to it took 23 years from my original research before the science community adopted the concept of epigenetics, which I enjoy because it gave me 23 years head start by adopting it 23 years before there, and then try to figure out life based on that belief rather than the one they were operating from. And it was wonderful because people like you, and very few of them, Alan, very few, saw what I was saying back then and said, oh, wait, this might be useful. and I want to honor you for that because, yeah, when I met you in New York and I said, oh my God, this guy understands what I'm talking about. I'm going to spend some time talking to Alan because he knows what the hell I'm talking about.
for tickets for the Bruce Lipton event in New York, August 3rd, go to www.betterworld.net/events-2 or use the QR code. Right now we have a great 2-for-1 special because we really want people there to see this work. Thank you. For tickets for the Bruce Lipton event in New York, August 3rd, go to www.betterworld.net/events-2 because we really want people there to see this work. Thank you. Okay, good.
All right. We have promoted
Okay,
August
we're not
3rd.
going to mention it
effectively.
again, okay?
But I do want to bring Tara on because she wants to second what Bruce just said. Go ahead, Tara.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I absolutely want to second what Bruce said about Alan. Alan is so incredibly perceptive and humble, and he keeps to himself about this, but his ability to identify meaningful work and bring it to the fore is really unparalleled. And so he kind of keeps himself in the background, but his ability there is incredible, and he's done so much for the community in bringing all of this amazing work to light. So thank you, Alan.
Well, thank you,
And
Tara.
I want to actually second that, Tara, Scott, and Alan. And I know him longer than any of you. And I've been watching
no, you
him.
don't.
You
No,
want-
you don't.
Is that so?
Alan and I met in 1989.
Oh, well, he and I met in 1981.
All right.
There you
all
went.
right.
Started in 1989, and I was not born in 1981. So you both.
Oh, we were only 2 years old, but you know.
All I am is a talent scout looking for people with original ideas. Gary and Hope and Tara and Mitchell. That's what's exciting. And Bruce, you know, I saw Bruce
That's right.
in a little magazine in Washington State. I said, this guy has something. So that's been my excitement traveling the world. Like you, Scott, we're talent scouts, right? I mean,
It's true. It's true. And speaking of talent scouts, the most amazing person I have been blessed to work with is our wonderful Omashar. And we've gone, this show is off to a great start, but we need some Omashar time. So I'm going to turn it over to our house musical artist. Eleanor Joy is here, so hopefully she'll put her dancing shoes on. And I see other people like Maureen and lots of people get up and move and groove to the music. Here we go with Omashar.
Well, if we're talking at dates, let's bring it back to zero. We all met each other at the beginning of time. So,
You're right.
there we are. So that's transliterated that one. And do we have this one down? Holy smoke, it took me a while. But
Yeah, it is. It
great.
is.
And I'm here with my ankles twisted, so I won't be able to press my sustain pedal.
Only play music in that position, we'd be good.
I know. There we are. However, like Gary said, I'm going to incorporate that every single day because it's very, very cool. And I love Bruce. He's what a dude. And this song isn't a rocking song. It's more of a journey. And it was written, it's called Spiral Through the Stars. And when I first started enjoying Barbara Marx Hubbard's work, she had a lot of graphics out there and done in with whatever, Adobe or whatever. And there was one graphic of our Earth spiraling through our universe. And I thought, hey, how about, looks like it's spiraling through the stars. And that was the original title for the song, Spiral Through the Stars. And so this was actually Barbara Marx Hubbard inspired. And it is a direct message from the heart of all creation to our hearts. And so with that, I'm going to put on my spiral start thingy. And I'm going to go here to change my deep breath. Mute somebody. Freeform animal, this tale I tell, it has no ending. I'd like you to know we are all on an incredible journey, a traveling show. I've been looking at you in your homelands, watching you grow, weaving light into creation, a heavenly glow. I have been inside you for so long. I will be with you forever. Come with me, let's spiral through the stars. A part of you has always remembered since the beginning of time. Through your hearts you felt my presence, a knowing sublime. I've been guiding you beyond your perception, forever your friend. Take some
have been inside you for so long. We will be with you forever. We'll come with you and spiral through the stars.
Going to gallery view. Let's all give him some really good twinkles. What a powerful song. You do some pretty serious keyboard work on that song, Omashar.
It's a trip because talking
Those
about
little fingers were flying.
sorry.
Those fingers were flying.
They were flying. And what happens with me is when I'm playing an intense piece of music like that, Gary would know when, you know, we are relatively well integrated as musicians, left and right brain, except when it comes to nerves, perhaps. And during the, you know, I practiced this 100 times today and it was perfect. But tonight, my mind was talking to me whilst I was playing and whilst I was singing, and it was telling me, "You're going to mess up, dude." And I'm going, "What?" And this is, you know, part of our mastery is learning to not shut that part of the mind down that's saying you're going to mess up, but somehow love it back into safety. Because I've been battling with that as a musician for a long, long time, and I'm over it. And I'm really grateful for tonight's show, because with Hope and Tara and Mitchell and Gary, we got the world sorted, right? And at least the ongoing world. And I'm going to zip it right there. And thank you so much.
Well, and I want to let everybody know that a wonderful way to appreciate and support him and do yourself a favor is to get his music. And the best way to get his music is to go to Bandcamp. So if you go to his name, omashar.bandcamp.com, there are 5 wonderful albums waiting there for you. And that way you can listen to Omashar music all week long, not just on.
And that song is on This Beautiful Garden, that lovely.
This one here.
Yeah, it's Stonehenge one. Yeah.
All right. Look at all this, and I recognize so many of those songs. Feel the Love, he plays that all the time on this show. And there it is, Spiral Through the Stars. So Omashar will be back with more music a little bit later on in the show. Thank you, brother. And we've already actually kind of briefly introduced some of our guests, but I'm going to bring Alan back on to give kind of the official introduction to Dr. Tara, who's got some wonderful things to share with us.
Yes. Tara is quite a revolutionary, I would say. You know, she started as, well, I'll read some of her bio. She was on the faculty of Cornell Medical College. She maintains a private practice in New York. She treats mental illness such as eating disorders. She's also now developed, even though she was such an intense clinician, I don't think that was enough for her, you know, so no, and then she worked at Cornell. She developed her own programs in eating disorders. She has a great book on eating disorders, where the few that actually work for people, that young women come to her, and she's not treating them as much clinically as she is from her personal experience and the love she has for these women, because she sees herself over there in those young women's place, and she knows how to get into that psychology. But with all that work and her own inner work, she developed a way of transcending her ego-based mind, and she started to have these awakened experiences. And for the last year, Tara and I have been doing something called the Consciousness Club, where people come together and talk about their conscious awakening experiences. So with all this clinical work, she's now going off into a place that doesn't quite fit into the clinical setting, but she is doing it anyway, and she's developing protocols for transcending ego. And she has this thing she's put together called the ego personality test, where she goes in and sees, sort of like what Bruce was doing, what's your blocks, what's in the way, why are you not getting what you want, what is it about your ego that's stopping your divine personage from attaining its rightful place in the universe, its rightful place of divinity and bliss. So this is her latest work with the personality ego test. And when she's done this with herself, she's gone, if you don't mind me saying, bliss states. She's achieving high Kundalini Samadhi states of consciousness, but just by going in and doing the work she's done. So Tara, it's your stage, and thank you for being here and trusting the process. So what do you want to share tonight with us?
Thank you, Alan. Alan has become such a good friend. And so he knows my kind of private process and what's happened. So it's really interesting. It was a really interesting introduction for me to hear because I kind of have segmented my clinical work in one area and my consciousness work in another area. And I do keep my practice separate, but I'll fill in some of the blanks here regarding the story. So I started developing this method to get in touch with my own loving awareness at a time where I was atheist, really a hard, cold academic. And I just didn't really believe anything else was out there. I didn't believe in anything outside of myself, really, or my ego, I should say. And at the same time, I intuitively felt called to these loving awareness meditations and metta meditations. And so I use the techniques that I developed to help people get out of ego, which is kind of an interesting skill set for a psychologist to have, because sidebar, a lot of people go into therapy wanting to address issues like anxiety and depression that the ego doesn't really like. I mean, or the people don't really like. It's uncomfortable to have depression. It's uncomfortable to have anxiety. But when a person has an eating disorder, they don't necessarily present as wanting to get over the eating disorder. They present as wanting to lose weight, which is in line with the ego. So I had to think outside of the box in terms of interventions to get people to let go of their ego. So again, I started thinking about my own ego and how I could move just towards loving awareness. And I started having these spontaneous mystical experiences. And I had absolutely no idea what to make of them. And I didn't necessarily connect them to the method. So I want to come out of the mystical closet even more now and talk about a little bit about how I met Alan and why I personally know that he is a visionary in terms of being able to identify work before it's even out there like Bruce is, because I was sitting at a table at a restaurant, totally kind of minding my own business at a conference called TCCHE, which is amazing, by the way. And I'm doing some work there with them now on this method. And Alan came running out of the back room. I think he was probably eating dinner with Bruce, and he stopped with his back to me and he whipped around and he looked at me and he sat down in the chair next to me and he said, you know, when people have experiences at higher states of consciousness, other beings notice. What happened to you? I had no idea who he was. And I said to him, well, if you're asking me a question like that, I think you already know. And so he went into describing my experiences and anyhow. So then he said, well, you know, you should start teaching this. And he's been really encouraging me to kind of get out and talk about this method that really I developed for myself. And now with Alan's encouragement, I'm sharing it with all of you. So that's a little bit of the fun backstory there. So would you like to hear a bit about the method itself?
Yeah, but you know, one thing, Tara, I think is that moment of forgiveness where you had to really go, and that was a transformative moment. If you don't mind me adding to your story, you want to
Alan knows my whole entire personal history, so he could just draw from it. So what had happened in that initial ego transcendent meditation that I had done without even knowing what I was doing was that I went back in time and experienced myself through the consciousness of someone that I had felt had wronged me or had victimized me. And seeing myself through their perspective, I completely forgave the abuse, we'll say, because I understood why it all happened. And what I experienced later that day was not in the meditation. It was hours after the meditation. I had an experience where I went into this white void surrounded by light. And I think it was because when a person forgives, I think that they're repairing a tear in the fabric of the collective consciousness or an ego block in the fabric of the collective consciousness. So our ego, which I define as psychological protection against fear, it distances us between us and another person. We other another person when they've hurt us in some way. And so I think when we merge consciousness with people that have victimized us, or we can experience with our consciousness what it's like to be in their consciousness, that egoic block kind of evaporates, and we become one from the separateness. So I do think that forgiveness is kind of the capstone of an ego transcendent method, because again, that's where our biggest egoic blocks are. So the method that I developed, though, I was practicing with some fidelity for years prior to myself building up to this forgiveness meditation and then having these more mystical experiences. So there are a few, we'll say, foundational steps that one would need to get to, I think, before jumping right into forgiveness after experiencing trauma and living with a degree of fear. So I think that you're probably all sensing a pattern here in my thinking, which is like, first, we need to make sure we really get to the therapy for things that need therapy. And then we can also build upon that spiritually and make sure that we're really doing this both together. At least for me in my own experience, that's what allowed me to remain in, we'll say, these more blissful states for extended periods of time, and make me, and I feel much more solid having worked kind of at all of the various levels of consciousness. If you're familiar with David Hawkins' work, from the lower levels of consciousness where we're really mired in fear and ego in the 3D, and then also moving up the scale of consciousness towards engaging in what I call higher consciousness service. So serving from the seat of loving awareness and tying it all together. I don't think that we can skip any steps. I think that we need to go through all of them. So should I go through them, Alan?
Yes, go through them so people can. Do you want people to take the personality ego test, or I mean, what do you want to do?
So that's a great question, Alan. So I've developed this 3-step method. The first step is insight. And there are various lessons that go along with insight. And one of the main lessons or experiences, we'll say, is taking what I call the ego personality test. So it's pretty extensive because our modern egos are pretty extensive, aren't they? So the test is very extensive as well. So I think what we can maybe do is do a little bit of an overview. But if people are interested in taking that ego personality test, they can go to my website, which is stepintohigherconsciousness.com. Contact me and I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, let's just go over it briefly. So, yes.
Thank you. Yep. So that's my website. Thank you, Scott, for sharing. And if you just go to the contact tab, send me a message, and within a couple days, I'll send it to you and we can get to know each other. Thank you, Scott, for that.
And let's go a little slower, because we have a lot of people watching on Facebook and YouTube. So I want to read to them what the website is. The website is stepintohigherconsciousness.com. Stepintohigherconsciousness.com. And then on the tabs here, I click contact. But here are the 3 steps that she was talking about. And Tara, I know that you wanted to lead a meditation, which we were excited about. So question for you. Do you want to lead it now, or would you like to lead it towards the end of the program to kind of, complete? What feels more in alignment for you?
Sure. I think it probably makes the most sense for me to do it here at the end of this segment, only because the meditation itself builds on the first two steps. So it probably makes sense to do it now.
Okay, great. So I'm turning it over to you to take our audience on a journey.
Sure. So just a little bit more background. And Scott, how much time do we have here? Because I think
Well, we're already over.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So let's
Yeah.
do meditation. All right, thank you, Scott. So okay. So essentially, after a person takes this ego personality test and discovers where their egoic ideals are, they can program the mind into having and upholding higher consciousness ideals and taking conscious action that is in line, actually not in line with the ego and in line with higher consciousness ideals. So instead of making specialized egoic meditations or ego transcendent meditations for everyone, what we could do is a stock one that kind of hits on some of the big modern egoic blocks, which would be thinness and, for instance, fame and wealth, these kinds of things. So you can get a flavor for what this meditation is. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay, so taking a moment just to drop in.
Original sound.
Thank you. Gonna ring the bowl 3 times here to start and twice to end. All right, let's begin. Bringing your attention to your breath. Noticing your inhales and your exhales. Stepping into the seat of awareness. In this meditation, you're invited to rewire the programming of your consciousness towards higher awareness. Moving into setting intentions. We do this practice for the benefit and welfare of all beings and all life everywhere, including our own. May we know the peace of living skillfully and with awareness of our ego. May we know the liberating freedom of non-attachment to outcome. May we know the love that arises from being of service, rooted in higher consciousness. And may we all be compassionate, peaceful, and free. You are not what your ego tells you that you are. You are loving awareness. You are not what others think of you. You exist independently from the thoughts of others. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. You are not your achievements. You are the driver behind those achievements. You are not the roles you play in this life. You are the actor playing the role. You are not your body. You are in and around your body. And you are not what you think you are worth, whether it be a little or a lot. You transcend worth. Moving into deprogramming the ego ideals. Your worth is not measured by the size, shape, and weight of your body, how much money you have, nor how many people like you. Here you are invited to explore whether the following higher consciousness ideals are in line with your true nature. And if so, programming them into your consciousness, setting them as a course for your actions to follow. Lovingly nourishing your body while accepting the way that it looks. Creating value through meaningful work and being a compassionate steward of resources. Respecting others while being your authentic self, regardless of whether or not people like you. If these are resonant with you, you're invited to commit to taking the following conscious actions, such as allowing yourself unconditional permission to nourish your body when it's hungry, stop eating when it's full, and exercise in such a way that's aimed at fostering health rather than changing the way the body looks. Committing to continue to help others with your work and resources, and expressing your honest opinion and needs in interpersonal relationships at the risk of being abandoned, rejected, disliked, or feeling discomfort. Remember that you are loving awareness. You are loving awareness. Taking a moment now to offer gratitude to yourself for this practice. Carrying the intention to do this for the benefit and welfare of all beings and all life everywhere, including your own. Commit to taking this new programming with you in your waking everyday life. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes.
Sorry, that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
You know, I really appreciate how you are helping us to focus on the bigger picture, you know, like exercising for our well-being, and not just for changing the way, you know, we look, as an example. And I heard that theme many times in both your talk and in your meditation, really making the truly loving choice, making choices that are rooted in what would love do for our body, for our health, for our well-being. And I also want to riff on that beautiful thought that forgiveness helps to heal a tear that's in the fabric of our consciousness. That is a beautiful, I've never heard it described that way, and it really stuck with me. So I just wanted to thank you for your beautiful words of wisdom. Yeah.
Thank you, Tara. Do you want me to put your notes from the three-step premise in the chat that you had texted me?
That's a great idea. I'll do it. Thank you, Alan.
For being here and stick around. Yes.
And one more time, you can get all things Dr. Tara at stepintohigherconsciousness.com. And you're gonna stick around for our final chat at the end?
I will.
Great. Okay, thank you. Well, Alan, we've already gotten a little sneak preview. We've got Gary Malkin and Hope Fitzgerald in the house with us. They're both most beloved members of our Global Peace Tribe. Gary, I need you to turn on your video so that I can bring you on, but I'm going to bring on Hope. And hopefully Gary will turn his video on so there he is. Gotta turn it back on, Gary.
Where is Gary? There's Hope. Hope, so good to see you.
Gary, okay. I'm just going to turn it right over to the two of you because you've got something very special, sharing wisdom from one of our beloveds who's no longer in body, and then something very special that you guys are going to be doing. So I'm turning it over to both of you.
All right. Do you want to, well, I'll introduce Hope and maybe Hope can introduce me. Because
I didn't do a big introduction because you both have been on the show so many times that I think the audience knows you. But for anybody watching for the first time, Gary Malkin is an extraordinary composer. He's done many, many, many soundtracks. But more than that, he is the composer for our tribe. He is so much of his music has come into our world in many, many ways. And probably my favorite way is through Graceful Passages, his award-winning album that is really helping those who are dealing with death and dying. And then he first introduced Hope into our Global Peace Tribe audience. They collaborate together in wonderful ways. And we met Hope a little bit earlier. So take it away, both of you.
Well, and I want to introduce Hope as being one of the most gifted and kind of reluctant whole persons I've ever met. Because she didn't want the title or the egoic structure of a spiritual guide and an author and a teacher and a phenomenal being, but she is that. She's such a blessing in my life, and she's accepted her appointment from forces beyond our description. So I'm so honored and delighted to have Hope be my creative partner in what I would say the most fulfilling and rewarding educational content I've ever been a part of transmitting. One of the things that really moved me so much was when I first met Hope around the musical that I'm working on, which is ready for funding, which is a whole other story. Someday, Scott, I'd like to talk about that alone. But we had this moment where I said, if I had a year to live, the only thing I would really devote myself is whatever I could do to develop tools that would give people a direct emotional and spiritual and greater than cognitive understanding of their mortality. Because what Graceful Passages does is it conveys in multidimensional ways a real faith in and experience of the continuity of life. And that's something that most people, like, we all know we're going to die, but nobody ever thinks it's going to happen to us, right? So, and when then she heard me, she said that, and she went, me too. I've been a doula since I was 16. So I looked at each other, we shook hands on it. That was way back, that was almost 10 years ago. And finally we developed these last few years, the body of work that we're sharing, which I'll share in a bit, but I wanted to hope you to presence this moment now that I've been talking about you. Go ahead and share a little bit for yourself.
Well, I am, always so grateful that we have come together, that I knew Gary 10 years before I met Gary through, like you, Scott, through Graceful Passages. It affected me so deeply, and after my mother died, and really helped me to heal. And I used those basic tenets from Graceful. I would put them on at different points in my life when I was facing transitions. And I think it's helpful for all kinds of transitions. And here we are tonight talking about Bruce Lipton, who is really talking about change, and transitions are change. And so it turns out that having met you in person and come together in this first connection with Graceful, but then also the play, and then also how we could respond to the great changes that have been upon us in an evolutionary way of looking at it in the last 4 years. Because I see it as an evolutionary push that has forced us to look at life a little differently, and also forced us to contemplate our mortality, because it's been right in our faces.
Exactly. So what I was saying, I hope kind of joined at the last minute. So let's hope what I was thinking was, I have this strong belief that we are all forced in this culture. And I know you'll all, actually, before I say anything, I just have to acknowledge Tara. That was phenomenal. And when we were together in Ibiza, if I had any idea what I was sitting across, because I just wanted you to know that was your languaging, your purpose, your extrapolating, your courage in leaving the conventional world and straddling both. And there's so much that you've offered. I can't wait to dive into what you're doing. I was really moved by everything that you shared. So thank you for that. I had to acknowledge that before we dive.
Thank you so much, Gary. I'm so excited to connect with you more.
Me too. Yeah. So Hope, what I was thinking was, and Hope knows me so well, I have this sensitivity to hypercognitive content. And so I literally part of me starts to get allergic to and upset with and stressed out with when we're doing nothing but talking. And so what happens is that's why I love being an artistic director of events, where it says I have this sensitivity to knowing that when you bring in something multidimensional and nonlinear, that always will involve some music, right? It irrigates the space with the unified field and the universal language of emotion, right? Of human emotion. It irrigates it with a heart presence and a soul presence that we all get fed by. And as the Holo movement would say it, by the implicate order that expresses itself into our sensory bodies and hearts and minds. So right now, I want to share, in honor of Neal Rogin, who I'll tell you about, a couple of short tracks. Each of them is, one is a minute long, and another one's 2 minutes long. And I want to do that in the spirit of two things. One is we just honored the anniversary of his death, the 1 year anniversary on June 16th. He died a year ago. And Neal was an awakened soul, actually. And you know how sometimes when they're amongst us, we don't really know how awakened they are. But now I realize he was truly awakened. And I forced him to come into the studio with me, and I improvised these piano tracks because I have a firm belief that we hear words, especially words as carriers, in a different way when it's set to music in an intentional way. So what I wanted to do, Hope, was I wanted to share these audios, and I want us to kind of do because we don't have tons of time, right? So I wanted to then reflect on how those shed light on why we're doing a workshop on resilience, because there's a connection, and we haven't ever talked about how they're connected, but I know they are. And I kind of like the "you are there, this is happening live right now" kind of moment. So we're riffing, but I love it because it's what we're about. It's what our lives are about. So I set up a little PowerPoint for us to experience this. So hold on a second. Where is it? Here it is. I know you're here. There it is. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to share the screen, and there we go. There we go. Okay. There. Beautiful. Sorry for the mess of my computer, guys. Here we go. There. So this is about honoring Neal. He and I had an unbelievable friendship, and I'm not going to talk much about him, but I'll just say that I had the great honor of co-creating media for the Pachamama Alliance with him from 2001 on. And we created films together, we created a lot of beauty together, and we had a deep, deep, close friendship. So I want to play this. Hold on. So I want you to experience. So this is what they write about him. So I just want you to look at each track is a nudge, prompting us to look more deeply within us to find the wonder that's always surrounding us. So in a way, these are ego emulsifiers as well, right? So I want you to remember that when we listen together on Zoom, it's actually a catalyst to listen as if we're around this digital fire, as a prehistoric surrounded fire. You know, we are in this experience of listening as a sacrament of communitas, right? So when we listen, I'm going to ask everybody to put their feet on the ground with their back straight. Let's take some breaths in, and let's listen as if we're surrounding a digital fire, and let our body, our interstitial fluid, our blood, our organs be cymatically influenced by the unique alchemy that happens between these words and music as a model of a marriage between the heart and mind. Here we go.
Your life story, your total allegiance to the content of your consciousness, your commitment to the continuity of your identity as an individual me, your preoccupation with its travails and triumphs, all of this is a trance, a spell, an enchantment. Your sense of me is an apparition, an image on a scrim, a stage trick, a ghost. The only thing that makes it seem so real is your continual fixation, truly, your unending need to fix it, to mess with your made-up self, to fine-tune your imaginary friend, and to get it right. Your memoir, your 3-act play, your biopic is being written by you as you go along. Most of the plot is based on what happened in the previous chapters, avoiding the mistakes of, improving on, regretting what we call the past. So for those of you who are smack in the middle of that epic entitled Life as Me, spoiler alert, the hero dies at the end. Your personness, your personality, your sense of that me that you think yourself to be is a reality show in which you are the central character and also the biggest fan. That show will come to an end. The last page of the script will be written and read. The curtain will come down. The credits will roll. But you, the you that has been here all along, thinking of itself as me, that you will remain. That you cannot die. That you is eternal. Let me say it this way. You are eternal. Just remember, the light at the end of the tunnel is a mirror.
Now don't say anything. Just let it drop. Let it drop into your fluids, into your heart, your soul. And just continuing with that, there's one other short one, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it.
Any action taken in response to the mistaken assumption that something is missing or something is wrong or something needs to be remedied only reinforces the mistake. It adds credence to that which does not even exist. It gives rise to the world of illusion and makes it appear that fear is real and well-founded. Once you take this road, it leads only to more fear, more illusion, more suffering. Stop. Do not act out of the assumption of lack or scarcity or brokenness. Refrain from acting until you can attain the state that sees all things as one thing. There is only one thing happening, and that one thing is not in conflict, not in lack or scarcity, and it is not suffering. That one thing is whole, complete, and fulfilled, now and always. Resist the temptation to separate your perceptions into segments, some of which are good, and some of which are bad. It is seductive to divide the one into understandable pieces. But that is the key that opens the door to suffering. Stay at the level of awareness where there is only one. This requires that there be no judgment, no values of right and wrong. And this means that the perceiver must also disappear. It is the essence of the false identity that it is separate from all it perceives. It exists only in that it is not that which it judges as right, wrong, good, or bad. To give up judgment and to witness what is as one is to drop the separate identity and become the one itself. Which is who you are all along. Peekaboo. You are the only one. It's just that you're not the only one who is the only one.
Okay. Well, then now I just want to share because I'll go to that promo in a minute. But Hope, I'd like you to share anything at all because if we have a little time, I'd rather hear you speak than me. I've already spoken a lot. Just what are your impressions when you hear this?
Oh, well, first of all, like I always say, I mean, I hear one note from you and I start to go into another world. I was really so touched and moved by the first piece in particular. It's almost too much to have two in a way because they're rich and they're deep. And this perception of the one, yet being ego identified or I just love the way he said that in that first one.
Yeah.
Having a hard time putting the second one aside to get back to
Yeah.
the first one. But yeah, this is what we're after. What we're after is, in our work together and certainly in what I'm doing is to move past all of that and move past this identity bit. And I love how he was talking about something I like to talk about too, which is, we have this proclivity to name it and claim it. So we'll take even a miraculous event, we'll put a title on it, we'll put a church around it, we'll put a box in it, whatever. Now we understand it.
Yeah.
And maybe try to recreate it. That's not how it works, So I feel like, I wish I had known Neal, and but I feel like I'm getting to know him through these beautiful delightments.
And I'm so aware of the fact that we're behind, that they went over time. So we really have to be mindful of, because we did get squeezed into this program at the last minute. So that how this relates to the work we're doing this Saturday. We are so, you guys, Scott and Alan, we are so excited because we've been doing this workshop now, both in relationship to grief, resilience, and in a sense, resilience is the first stage of grief, in the sense that we face something we're not expecting. And like, how do we navigate a bump in the road? It's like, whoa, how we do it with flow and ease and holding things. not letting us freak us out and all that. Resilience is like a bump in the road. Something lost, trauma, and grief, something that's worth grieving, is a much bigger bump in the road, right? It's a complete game changer. And so what we've found is that the thing that steals people's purpose and their shiny light and their sense of connection to the united field the most are the stories that people tell about themselves in response to the wounds and the bumps and the losses and the changes that end up being calcified in a way that has to be addressed, or else you're not free, right? There's another version of saying what Bruce was saying and what Tara was saying. So we really created, actually it came through Hope after we had a long conversation, of this thing called the Chrysalis process. And we just want to say, because we don't have much time, that it's this nested process that gives rise to the frequency of the next thing. And just briefly, in the resilience thing we're doing this Saturday, we don't have time to describe it in detail, but just say something, Hope, about why we're so, I've never been more excited about using Hope's immersive guided meditation transmitter gift and my capacity to use music as a way to shift and elevate frequency. And together we use these tools to actually literally emulsify calcified loss and grief and rigidities and personality patterns. And it's so exciting that we really came up with something that people are from A to Z having a different, radically different experience. Hope, can you add it, knowing that we have not much time more?
Well, we wouldn't be talking about it if it hadn't been working. Every time we do one of these online or in-person Chrysalis process, here's the thing: people don't change through a lot of words. They don't change necessarily through, we have wonderful ideas and books and and we learn through people like Bruce and all of that, but really it's having an experience, personal experience, that changes us. So the Chrysalis process is chock full of it's 4 experiences that weave one into the other to bring us from one state at the beginning to another in a way that will stick. And so that's why we're doing it. We're trying to get unfrozen after all the changes, and the people have sort of, as Gary says, calcified in reaction to a lot of things that have happened in recent years.
I think Scott should read some of the comments, right, Scott? There's some beautiful comments in the chat.
I'm not going to, because we're 20 minutes over and I'm feeling bad about Maria, who is giving up a wedding to be here. So suffice to say, there's gorgeous comments. Beautiful hearing what Neal had to say. Beautiful music as always, Gary. And thank you for bringing that into the show. And let's take a look at how people can join you on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you. And Scott, I had one experience recently in a Unity Earth call. Somebody started to shout out about you. And I just have to say, I am so in awe of your commitment to being one of the most reliable, high frequency deliverers of wisdom and wisdom keepers. It's just so beautiful. I'm so touched and honored that I'm part of your tribe and family. And thank you for giving us this chance. This Saturday at 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. PST, we're going to be offering a beautiful new version of the Resilience Workshop, Cultivating and Mastering the Art of Change. So definitely find out more by going u-awake.com, as you can see there. And I think that we'll probably call it. Thank you for the opportunity to share. And in particular, I really know Neal is shining down, looking at us, smiling, and really grateful that we're honoring him. And thank you for the opportunity to do that as well.
Absolutely. I didn't know him as well as you did, but I did know Neal through Pachamama and just living in Marin together. And thank you, because I always liked him, but his wordsmithing and his ability to put into succinct words the big picture, wow.
Yeah,
and then add it to your music. I can't wait. I want to listen to all of them, and I'm sure that I put the link into the chat box.
well, also, you guys, you got to go to Amazon and buy his book. It's probably the best subtitle in the history of subtitles. Delightment, escaping the solitary confinement of your prisonality. I just love it. So we'll let you go. Thank you, Maria. Sorry if we took some more time. And I hope, please join us this Saturday or next Saturday. And we'll, as Dr. Clint Rogers and Dr. Noram would say, I love you and I'm with you. Namaste.
Namaste. We love you too, Gary. Thank you, Hope. Thank you very much. And I did just take a look and found the book that Gary was talking about. So if you want more Neal Rogin, God bless his soul, the book is called Delightment, Escaping the Solitary Confinement of Your Personality.
Prisonality.
Prisonality. There it is on Amazon. I'll put it in the chat box, but I want to leave that up for people watching on YouTube or on Facebook. And a big hello to all of the people watching. Really want to appreciate those of you who are watching on Facebook or on YouTube. Welcome, and I hope you're enjoying our Global Peace Tribe show. I'm going to turn it back over to my partner for the evening, Alan, to introduce our very next guest. And thank you, Maria, for being patient.
Yes. Thank you, Maria. And thank you, Scott, for, not going with the comments and just speeding things along and doing this for a while. But I have to say, the arc of this show is very interesting. We started with the personal, and then Tara got into the transpersonal, and Gary and Neal Hope got into the real level of high transformation. And now Maria's talking about another level of transformation because she is a holistic nutritionist. She is a certified health and well-being coach. She's a functional nutritional coach, and she's certified in Ayurveda, as an Ayurveda practitioner, but some of her specialties is dealing with anxiety. So it kind of brings that around, and Ayurveda and anxiety is one of her focuses. So Maria, why don't you just jump in and talk about some of the methods to also change the personal and the bigger picture. So go ahead. Thanks for being here, Maria Tabone.
Oh, thank you both so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here. Yeah, so I'll jump right in. So, Ayurveda, just to give you a little, for those of your listeners that may not be familiar with it, it's the ancient medical system of India. It's over 5,000 years old. It's the sister science to yoga. So Aryu means life and Veda means science or knowledge. So it translates to the science of life. And the philosophy in Ayurveda is that optimal health is really the harmonious balance between the body, mind, spirit, and environment. And when one of these aspects are not aligned, it leads to disease or dis-ease in the body, and it just throws it out of balance. So in the case of, anxiety, where, they say there's 40 million adults in America that suffer from it, but I think that is probably a lot higher from people that don't talk about it. Just some still feel that it's a stigma. But Ayurveda believes that anxiety with most mental illness starts in the mind and then manifests in the body. When we are dwelling on negative or destructive thoughts, those beliefs, as Bruce Lipton says, points out, become our biology and they become the truth to us. And however, when we treat ourselves with love and compassion, and cultivate positive thoughts, well, those then become our reality. Just like being in love can make you feel joyful, but constant worry can manifest as physical symptoms, whether it's stomach ache, digestive issues, headaches, insomnia, and it affects each person differently. So, and prolonged stress can cause inflammation in the body and then lead to more serious health issues. So, Ayurveda says that our cells have wisdom and memories. So healing from within really requires addressing the whole, right? The mind, body, spirit, and environment. We hear that term all the time. But to calm the mind, we need to calm the body. And to calm the body, we need to calm the mind. So you're working on this entire system, which it's really essential to address the root cause of any issue. Because if you don't get to the root, we're basically putting a Band-Aid on the problem, temporarily covering it up until it resurfaces. Ayurveda really emphasizes that each person's unique. And since no two are alike, they all have to be treated as such, consider their bio-individuality. And there are three primary energies called what they call the doshas, which are unique to everyone, and they govern physical and mental processes in the body. And these doshas are comprised of the 5 elements known as, so it's vata, which is air and ether, pitta, which is fire and water, and kapha, which is earth and water. So when you understand your dosha, that provides insight into your innate nature. So it helps you determine what the best foods are for you, how to eat, why you prefer a certain season. Some people love the cold, some hate it, and even the exercise that aligns with your body type. It also, meditation, breath work, herbal remedies, body treatments, aromatherapy, these are all part of the treatment in Ayurveda for anxiety. And once everything starts to change, when we begin to live in balance, right? Again, with all the things I mentioned, like eating the right foods, meditation to really retrain those thoughts. Once you start doing that, then the body and the mind start to reconnect and harmonize. You start to feel lighter, and that cloud starts to lift, which really allows you to get to the source so you can heal from there. And, Tara, which that was so beautiful, meditation is so essential for healing, right? Calming the mind, being present, and that can be difficult. I'm sure like people are meditating, you're thinking of, oh, what am I doing tomorrow morning? What am I having for breakfast? But I advise my clients to just start with 5 or 10 minutes a day. Just even if you can simply just sit in silence without distraction, and then, start focusing on your breath. It really, as we know, it's a practice. And over time, it starts to feel better and better. I love meditating. I meditate every morning. And I even say, some people will say to me, well, I can't get on a mat. I don't have time. I'm like, the minute you open your eyes, have some gratitude for something and just do a meditation while you're laying in bed. I'll take it just to start that process. And it's really, really profound. But again, going back to that manifestation of all of these thoughts, and we have them, and especially in the climate that we're living in right now, it's no wonder that, everyone is just stressed out and in distress. And we need to kind of break that cycle of retraining those thoughts and retraining what we say to ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. I think meditation and taking care of your body and your mind is an act of love, really. I think that just getting started with meditation, but again, starting with how you think, just pause and be conscious of how you talk to yourself, just breaking that cycle. And it's also, Ayurveda also talks about having a daily routine is really important. And it sounds very simple, but just something like including regular meditation times, including regular meal times, walking every day for even 20 minutes after a meal, going to sleep at the same time, having that steady routine really starts to help. It helps the mind and it helps the body. So of course we know that electronics at night in the bedroom are very, very distracting. You want to try to turn the lights out by 10 p.m. and just really calm yourself and prepare yourself for bedtime, and try not to take those thoughts to bed with you. You want to try to not watch, of course, the news and anything that is upsetting or violent. So you can go off to sleep and just drift off with some positive thoughts. And that will take time to keep doing that. It's just going to have to start to be a routine. But you can do it. I mean, there's other things. Body work is wonderful. Diffusing essential oils in your room can really contribute to a nice, peaceful night's sleep. And also refraining from eating after 5 p.m., gives your body ample time to digest. Eating late disrupts the body's digestive process. So you want to be able to prepare fully to get a good night's sleep and just drift off into a lovely, peaceful sleep with calm thoughts. So that's pretty much it. I didn't want to take too much of your time.
Well, Maria, thank you very much. And what I do want to do is let people know how they can get more of you. I'm pulling up your website, and the website is theholisticroot.com. Theholisticroot.com. And I see that people can get a discovery call. So upper right-hand corner, book a discovery call. And is that a free consultation?
It is. It's a free discovery call to see how we can work together.
Oh, that's very well. And is there a particular demographic group that you most enjoy working with, Maria?
I've mostly been working with women, 30 to 70. It's a pretty big demographic group, but and I should mention too, I've had anxiety, and it was one of the reasons I had it many years ago, and it was one of the reasons that started me on this path. Because now, once you experience something and then you hear someone say that they have it, it takes on a whole new meaning, because you can really understand where they're coming from. So I work with a lot of women that, if they have weight issues or want to learn more about nutrition, and if they have chronic illness, I help a lot of women with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, because I also have that. So, and that took me like a 2-year journey to get from, feeling awful to healing. And a lot of that I did with Ayurveda, including when I had anxiety, I healed it through Ayurveda as well.
Scott, I think Maria makes this show extremely holistic. We had the mind, the emotions, the spirit, the environment, and now the body adds that final piece, or maybe we start with the body, but it's like all the pieces were addressed on this show tonight. And I thank you, Maria, for all hanging around and waiting and just adding your beautiful piece to this beautiful global peace tribe that we have here. So,
well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This is beautiful.
Well, thank you, Maria. And I know that you've got a wedding that you've been kind of popping in and out of for the.
Have some dancing to do.
Yeah. So, is the wedding still going strong?
It's still going strong. So.
Okay, good.
Have fun. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Maria. It's really wonderful to meet
Namaste.
you. Yeah. All right. Well, we have a lot to digest, Alan. So we're going to go to Omashar for another song, and we're going to kind of come back to some announcements, and then take any questions and comments from the audience.
I also want Mitchell to comment a little bit about, because he also has a little bit of a holistic. So let's see if we can do some of that.
Absolutely. Want to hear more from Mitchell for sure.
All right. We'll hear more from Mitchell. Are you ready, Mitchell? Are you awake?
I am awake. I'm just holding on by my fingertips at this point. But there's a lot to say, and I'm actually just going to give you a taste right now. But I will say that my overall perspective is, as a holistic psychotherapist who's also got involved in the use of energy fields, quantum energy fields, in my work with clients for many, many years. And that's what I do. It's a biofeedback system. And it's a lot to go into, and it's late, so I'm not going to go into depth. But I know there was something else, Alan, you wanted me to talk about, which had to do with my work with therapeutic theater, which is another aspect of my work, which has a lot to do with empathy training. And, if you or Scott would like me to come back and really go into some depth, because it deserves it. And just
Scott's all the time
what?
with Rosenberg, empathy was a big piece. So I think you and Scott could do a
Yes.
great match.
Yes, exactly. I interviewed Marshall some time ago, and it was one of the highlights of my time, you know. So I'd be glad to do it. In fact, I'm going down to Paradise Island on Wednesday to the Shivananda Yoga Ashram to teach exactly this to the yoga students there. So it's exciting. But I will say, just in light of every beautiful, beautiful presentation tonight that Alan, you and Scott brought forward with Tara and Hope and Gary and I have been trying to connect for quite a long time now. And every time we have like an EL meeting or something, we're always saying, hey, we got to get together. And so this yet again, everyone is bringing such really juicy, important material to the table, both on the micro level and the macro level. And as you well said, Alan, each person developmentally through this evening was kind of a beautiful movement between these spaces of micro health and well-being, all the way to looking at the collective and the way we're all interacting with each other on the quantum, sort of like the butterfly effect, you know, where every single word and every single action and every single intention is affecting the whole. And with the amount of love that Scott generates in this group, we're really affecting the field, and God knows it needs it. So that's all I'll say for the moment.
You know, I want to acknowledge that his work, his company is A Better World.
Yes.
And thank you, Mitchell, for all that you do to create a better world.
My pleasure.
You know, all the events that you do. And good luck. I'm sure August 3rd is going to be an amazing night. I'm
absolutely
in serious
Thank
FOMO.
you.
But let me know right away when you've got the information about the live stream.
Absolutely.
That's how most of our audience will be joining
We'll
you.
know tomorrow. Okay, Scott? Thank you so much, brother.
Mitchell, someone wants to know the website for your quantum energy field. So put that in the chat too. Okay.
Sure. Sure. It's my website, and I don't go into great depth on the website. That's more media oriented, but you can contact me and I'd be glad to talk to you about it.
abetterworld.net. I'll put that in the
Exactly.
chat.
Okay, sure.
So hang out if you want, and we'll just
Yeah,
go into.
I'll stay with you for a few more minutes.
Okay, great. And here is Omashar to help us. Like Gary said, we can't just have blah, blah, talk. We got to, and that's one of the things I love about our show is that we always have live music in between the amazing presenters. And thank God for Omashar, our house musical artist.
What if we could find a way to wipe away all tears and fears, all broken hearts, to clear the way for a brand new start? Now that we see and know the way to lift our day and shine the light for all to see, the way back home and the way to be free. Let our love lead the way. What if we could find a way to wipe away all tears and fears, all broken hearts, to clear the way for a brand new start? Let our love lead the way. Let the light shine through all. Let our hearts and minds be free. As we rise up from the fall, there is a way to see again, to be again, to know the truth, to smile again with an open heart. We feel safe again, safe again.
Thank you. Big appreciation. Boy, the words, it's amazing how often the words of your songs perfectly fit what the show has been about, Omashar. It's extraordinary.
Thank you. It's by design.
Yeah, well, the design's working, bro.
And but it's also what do they call it? The something internet in Hawaii, they called it the I don't know, the grapevine.
Oh, the coconut.
Thank you. There we are, right there. Because we're all tuned in to this focus, and as I've mentioned before, I don't choose the songs. It just says, it presents itself, and I go, okay, and it's always perfect, as we are. Thank you.
It shows that you're a clear channel for spirit to flow through.
There we are.
Absolutely.
I rest my case.
Hey, I do want to, for all the people watching on Facebook, I want to show Mitchell's website so you know where you can get all things Mitchell J. Rabin. And it is a betterworld.net, a betterworld.net. And I'm going to accept your cookies there, Mitchell.
Okay.
And
they're delicious, Scott.
He's very committed to creating a better world. And you'll find podcasts and videos and his store and anything in particular you want to make sure we focus on while we're looking at your website, Mitchell?
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful question, Scott. I mean, I've got a million podcasts. I mean, honestly, I've been doing this since 1993. I really started a long time ago when as I said, I was about 2 to 4 years old. I don't even remember. But, the radio and TV and podcasts pretty much since then. So that's a lot of fun. The YouTube and the Spotify, as well as the store is actually pretty cool because I've got these things that so many musicians, Omashar and everything. I have something called the Sound Lounge, which is a vibrational bed where that actually you feel the music coursing through your body, especially the bass, the in harmony thing. And it's just a beautiful experience. And Alan knows I had a healing center called the Center for Creative Well-Being that had one of these sound beds that was sort of like a dry flotation tank. I have one of those as well. So I've been totally into the interface of some of the stuff that Bruce was talking about, creating alpha, theta, and delta waves and brain coherence and using sound and hypnotherapeutic reprogramming to bring people into these, reprogrammable states of being. So all that stuff is on the website.
All right. Well, thank you for all that you do to create a better world.
Thank you so much, brother.
We're going to do a few announcements, and I want to start with just inviting all of you watching on Facebook and YouTube. We go out to about 150 Facebook groups, pages, and channels because of the Sign Network. Sign, S-I-N-E. And that, of course, is John and Summer Raymer. Our Global Peace Tribe family knows them well. By the way, Summer is just announced 4 more dance-a-thons. They're going to be 4 hours at a time, a little bit more doable. And we're going to have Summer on the show next Saturday night. So you'll learn all about it then. But anyway, thank you, John and Summer, for all you do with the Sign Network. And for those of you who are watching, come join us. Come join the Global Peace Tribe, just like what's behind me, Global Peace Tribe. But even easier, I'll show you our website. It's our name, globalpeacetribe.com. And that's where you can learn all about us, all about what we do. We provide 2 or 3 shows every week, always on Wednesday and Saturday night, with all sorts of people. There's Kristin Hoffmann. You heard her earlier tonight, and I'm going to replay that song. And we have amazing people coming onto the show. Pato and Antoinette are going to be back on in a couple of weeks. So click register for the new season. And there's a good time because we just started our new 3-month summer season. And there's all sorts of different levels that you can join at. And then you get the Zoom room links to all of our shows. And we are going to be doing at least once a month. Eden, Amador, and I are going to do a Sacred Sunday show, of course, with Omashar. And we're going to do another film series with Lori Grace. And we've got some other fun things planned. So please do join the Global Peace Tribe. And a big thank you to all the people that are in our Zoom room, because they did that. The people that are here are the people that have joined our subscribers. And we do need subscribers to keep this going. So thank you, everybody, for that. I'm going to turn over to Christy Michaels, who's got a brief announcement about something that we always enjoy every year. We would like to promote this. So take it away, Christy.
Hi, thank you, Scott. Oh, as usual, what a great show. I had a profound healing myself from using Bruce Lipton's work. And so I know it works. All this stuff. This is the only way. In fact, I just had a really amazing healing happen. I was Memorial Day weekend. I was in the hospital on morphine with really intense pain, and came home. They didn't know why or couldn't diagnose it or anything, and they just said, "Here's a bunch of drugs. Go home." And so I didn't want to do that, so I decided to use the Dr. Joe Dispenza, because I had made that video, Dr. Joe Dispenza Meet Mary Magdalene, which documents that Mary Magdalene's awakening happened as Dr. Joe Dispenza discovered in 8,000 brain scans. And I showed the connection point by point by point. So this week, this month, coming up July 22nd, is the Magdalene Feast Day celebration. And I'm going to really do a deep dive in what an incredibly powerful leader she was. I mean, we have really missed out, especially women. And of course, women are now losing everything. We've lost our rights to sovereignty over our body. We've lost the Equal Rights Amendment that allows equal pay for equal. I mean, how much more, ladies, are we willing to lose? And it's really only going to come, as one person talked about here today, when we unify our voice, when we join together. That's why I'm a big supporter of Scott and what you do. I love what you do.
Thank you.
And Scott and Lori Grace did a whole thing a few Friday nights back about the documentary on the rise of white Christian nationalism. And we have a race coming up that is neck and neck with 2 people. Nobody wants either one of them. But the people have no voice either. So it's really behooves us to really get with these quantum field manifestation principles. And this is going to be where we're going to do the deep dive on the Magdalene feast day, because you can't find anyone more powerful. You're hearing all about her. She's coming up, she's rising. In fact, I am going to teach a class down the road called Taking a Peek Behind the Veil, because people don't know that these spirit of ascended masters are actually speaking to us. I mean, you have many guests on that come on, but I think people need to know, how do we take a peek behind the veil? And I'm a mystic. And so anyway, I sat up and I did a meditation, and I asked for the mantra, and the mantra was be still and know that I am God. And I stayed in the be still and know that I am God. What a sweet spot. And the second that I hit that sweet spot, suddenly everything opened up, and this download of what I was to do for the Magdalene feast day came pouring through, and out came the pain, completely gone as soon as the vision poured through me in its entirety. And I wrote it all down, and I got up and I was like, what? I'm pain-free. And I was on morphine, man. I was like, whoa, this pain was bad. And it was gone. So I just got a healing metaphysically from releasing. So anyway, thank you so much, Scott, for letting me give I'll put my information in the chat. You can click on the link and go there and check it out. I'd love to have you join us, especially the women. Come on, we got to get together. We have to unify, ladies. We have to get on the same page and raise our voices and support each other. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Kristin. I know that it's going to be a really very, very, very special event. You do a great job putting it together every year.
Thank you.
So, she mentioned the film series that Lori and I have started on Christian nationalism. Now, I've always been very careful with this show not to go political, but to keep things as informational and inspirational as possible. But I do have to say, I do believe our democracy is being threatened right now. I'm not promoting a specific candidate, but it is important for us to be aware of some of what's going on. And some of these documentaries are very, very powerful. And the next documentary that we're planning on showing is a movie called Bad Faith. And it's about the rise of the very fanatical Christian nationalist movement, which has very little to do with the true spirit of the Christ. It really actually historically shows that it goes all the way back to the Ku Klux Klan, because it's a similar vision. The vision and the very warped idea that America was created by God to be a country that is white male dominated, and that minorities are subservient. And that's the vision going on back to the KKK, but it's also the same vision of these leaders that have a lot of power. So it's an important movie. It's painful to watch, you guys, and it's important to watch. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to ask everybody to go ahead and rent the movie on their own. Rent it or buy it. It's called Bad Faith. And then we're going to have a discussion about it, a film discussion about it, on either Sunday, July 21st or Sunday, July 28th. I'll send out an email to all of our subscribers. This is for subscribers only. This time we're asking you to go ahead and rent it, watch it on your own in your own time, and then we're going to have a discussion on Sunday the 21st or Sunday the 28th to talk about it. It'll be in the afternoon. And this is important for us to know about. So, thank you very much for this part of what we're doing. It's a little bit different from our normal shows. And I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Alan, because I think, Alan, we already know about August 3rd, but there was something else. You've got something else coming up in Sedona, I think.
Yes, the Sedona Transcendence Retreat. Let me find a flyer for that. That's Matt Kahn's going to be there. Who else? Lisa Royale. A bunch of channels, mediums, psychics is kind of the theme. And a great place is the fall equinox. If we'll get there to the fall equinox, because right now it's the heat of summer, but it's coming up, and that'll be a great Sedona retreat that I'm part of. I am doing lots of shows on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/new realities. Was something else coming up for us, Tara? Were we doing something? Maybe we'll plan a retreat somewhere too.
I'm going to plan a retreat somewhere with our friend Marnie Friedman, who runs the San Diego Writers Festival. So we're hoping to do a spiritual writers retreat.
That's right. That'll be really fun. This woman, Marnie from San Diego, who runs the San Diego's Writers Retreat, and I suggested we put together a spiritual writers retreat. So that's something that could be very exciting for people who don't feel they have the encouragement to do their own writing about their spiritual lineage, about their spiritual awakening. I think that's a whole new, it's not a new genre, but it's going to hit mainstream in a way that I think could. And I think you're a great leader in that, because you've made that bridge, Tara, from, the normal world, and you had an awakening, and now this is your life.
Right. And it would have been so helpful to read stories of other people, memoirs of other people who have gone through something similar. And I think as a scientist, I'd like to collect that data too, because as people are using the method, as people are using vibration to get themselves out of ego, they're having these transformative experiences, and they're not always, so sweet and sunny and full of rainbows. Some of these spiritual awakenings are rude awakenings. And so I think we need these stories to help shepherd us through the process and create community.
Well, that's one of the things Scott's really good at, digging into those places that can be uncomfortable and bringing that out and talking about it, and not patting everyone on the head, but let's go to some of the difficult places and acknowledge the guilt, the pain, the suffering, instead of making it all nice. And that's the great thing about Marshall Rosenberg. You have something to say about that, Scott? Yes, please jump in.
Well, just, look, I think we all know that this is it. I mean, this is the next 10 years. There's going to be massive change, and some of it's going to be very uncomfortable. And let's face it, we're all pretty blessed. We live in America. We're white. We have money. We're older. We're pretty safe. And doesn't mean we're completely safe, but we're relatively safe. But my God, the amount of suffering that's already going on in the world, obviously in Gaza, in Ukraine, in other places, Yemen, and we need to show up, and I think really most of us who are on this show, I'm going to bring Mitchell on also, most of us who are part of the Global Peace Tribe, we all recognize, okay, what can I do? What role can I play to create an awakening world, to create a better world, to create a new reality, to use our monikers, our collective monikers.
Sure.
So, there's a lot to do, and we all have a role to play.
Well, that's what was
Scott, I tell people all the time when they say, "Are you on this side or are you on that?" Whether it's the Israelis and the Palestinians, I mean, I know how I feel about what's going on, or the Ukrainians and the Russians, and I'm Ukrainian Jewish.
Wow.
And with a little Russian thrown in too. Yes, you're right. And I say, you know what? I'm on the side of peace. And that's where we have to, I believe, come from. And if we come from that space, the ability to resolve these issues, I don't know, I personally think starts to become quite easy.
Well, this is what we demonstrate on this show. There are answers to the problems. There's answers to body, mind, spirit, awakenings, how to find peace within. I mean, this is why we do the Global Peace Tribe, and why you so dedicated to, I think, because you're finding, I can't put words in your mouth, but you're finding this is helping people, Scott. I think that's why you're doing it.
That is why I'm doing it. I'm going to read a few comments from the audience, and then if there are any closing thoughts or comments, and then I can actually play the Kristin Hoffmann song one last time, kind of bookend our show with that. But Morgine writes, remember, merely thinking loving thoughts as often as you can makes a difference. It affects the whole of humanity. This reminded me of what Maria suggested, just living in gratitude, being as grateful as we possibly can be. Ayada writes, I don't feel entirely safe with current global situations myself, but I accept it as part of the mission many of us undertook to be present on the planet during this era of transformation. However, I feel deep concern for all of my grandchildren who did not have the benefit of knowing the world when it was still relatively whole and healthy. Isn't that true? Let's face it, most of us are in the, our final third of life, the four, not maybe Tara, but we've had great decades. We've had really great decades, and yeah, my friends, my clients that are bringing in children right now, that's tough. That's
Well,
tough.
Scott, I think the show we're going to do next, the next Making Contact show, is a little bit of hope that maybe we can get some assistance from outside the egoic, and it's all ego, Tara, all the wars, all the suffering that humanity has put upon itself. And we are our own worst enemy. So when people say they fear what's coming from, outer space, wherever it's coming from, it couldn't be worse than what we've done to each other. And probably it's a lot better. And I do think, not to give false hope, but we're part of a bigger environment. That's sort of the Making Contact shows that we're doing. And we can look that life is an emergent property of creation. And the idea is to honor life and the force and the compassion and the love that Einstein said the question comes down, are we living in a compassionate universe? I think we are. But what humans have done to the planet, the first thing Bruce said is we've had this garden and we've made war on the garden. So how do we make peace? A garden is, like Bruce said, it is the epitome of harmony. Everything flows, and we have this garden and we can return to it. And I think that's our destiny. One more thing I want to say about Tara is when she's been doing these meditations, she's been going into these bliss states. And Tara, you want to say something about that? Because you keep saying, oh, I have stuff to do and you're in this bliss state. But the bliss state, describe your bliss state, because that's really where we all want to go to.
Sure, and I'll tie it back to the state of the world if I can. So my personal experience has been when actually doing the work to untether oneself from the ego and stepping into higher consciousness, the spiritual feeling without bypassing is that things are perfect just as they are, and that everything that's happening in the world is allowing us to have the opportunity to untether ourselves. And maybe it's not in this lifetime. Maybe we don't get there by the end of again, this particular lifetime, but the scope is so much bigger when you're zoomed out. And so not necessarily to provide false hope about any sort of third dimensional outcomes, simply that when one is in that state, the lived experience is that things are unfolding quite perfectly. And so I think that there are two ways to go about, we'll say, affecting change. One is to try to push the physical elements around in the third dimensional world and try to change specific things. The other method is essentially to surrender ego, untether yourself, tap into loving awareness, and then affect change from, we'll say, that quantum field, in the way Lynn McTaggart's research would explain. And so I think that doing this work of getting ourselves out of our own ego, we're doing our piece in the 3D world in the same way that if we all were recycling, we could all affect change, right? If we're raising our own vibration. And then on top of kind of doing our part by cleaning up our own mental space, we can again go into that quantum space and then use that loving awareness to then set intentions for the physical 3D world. That is what I personally spiritually believe. I think that there's a lot of evidence also that suggests that that is true. I don't know if the scientific community at large would be able to process that information, but it is out there. And so just to remember that there are two ways of doing things, right? The 3D and then the quantum, and we should, I think, be doing both. But it starts with our own work and our own devotion to becoming in line with our true nature, which is loving awareness.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you.
Beautiful.
You know, I want to, I always get excited when there's a new person who comes onto the show who is such a bright light as you are. And thank you, Alan, for introducing her to us. And one of the things, Tara, that we do is we take certain sections from a show, and the wonderful Connie, who's in the audience with us, is our editor. And I'm going to make a segment of your presentation and your meditation and put it in our playlist, which is at the very top of our YouTube channel, called Dynamic Segments from the Awakening World, to help our audience get to know you more. So thank you very much, Tara. And thank you, Alan, for bringing her on. I want to read a few comments from the audience. Then I'll give you a chance, Alan and Mitchell, each to have one last final thought. But let me read a few comments that have come in, because we really haven't paid as much attention to our audience today as we usually do. You know, I just spoke about the wonderful Connie, who does editing for us. And Connie makes a really good point. She says, keep in mind, we are on the evolutionary upward spiral to peace on Earth, as together we bring heaven to earth. Trust the process with bold, committed action. And for those of you that don't know about the trust frequency that she and her partner Andrew have created, it's brilliant. And maybe you can put that into the chat box, Connie. I want to also acknowledge Morgine again writes, all the channels I listen to tell us we are ahead of the game. The increasing light is bringing to surface everything that needs healing, so it will get worse before it gets better. Just like when we, you know, are healing, when we're going through a cleanse, it is funky. You know, the funky stuff has to come up and out, and it's been stuffed for a long, long time. So I'm basically paraphrasing for you, Morgine, but I absolutely agree. She concludes by saying, we are winning, and the ETs are a huge part of that because they want us to succeed. And I agree with that, absolutely. And Scotty Satori is coming on. A lot of people promoting RFK. Again, I'm not taking, at least not publicly, any particular side, but I know that he's definitely worth listening to. And I encourage people to listen to what he has to say. Don't just read the media, because the mass media is definitely out to make him look bad. And so, you know, watch the interviews and come to your own conclusion. All right, Mr. Steinfeld, Mr. Mitchell. I'm going to go to Mitchell first. Any closing thoughts?
Well, you know, I just want to say a huge thank you to you and my dear friend Alan for conducting a beautiful evening for us all together, Scott. And you're bringing great people to the foreground, which, you know, of course, I've been doing it for a long, long time too, but your format is gorgeous. I love it. Omashar's music, you know, you've created a quantum field for us all to really dance in and play in and celebrate and express our deep feelings about the world and about the work that we're doing to be in service. So that's really what I want to say. Thanks. And I love meeting and listening to all of the folks tonight.
Well, thank you, Mitchell, for all that you do to create a better world.
Thank you, my friend.
Yes.
I'll be back.
Alan?
Yes, you know, it's interesting. I think we're all about the same age, and we were brought up with television and variety shows. You remember there was a variety show on, and there was some singing and dancing, and not, but this is the essence of what that was supposed to be, a variety show that's about many different perspectives with entertainment that is bringing people to a higher level, and meditation and dropping in and making it personal. This was a program that I think for me it feels very personal, very each thing that from Bruce to Mitchell to Tara to everyone, it's something we can all use, and we can use it at this time where the world is more unpredictable than ever. It feels like it's just spinning out of control. So we have two choices with that. We can say, oh my God, what's going to happen? Or we can say, wow, this is the most
exciting
time. It's as exciting as it can get because nobody knows what's going to happen. We are off a whole new territory, and I can't think of a better time, to be here on the planet, see, well, what's going to unfold next? What's it going to be? How does history write itself from this point forward? So I just think everyone should be excited about the possibilities and not in fear about that, because the unimaginable always seems to come forward just when you think we have it all figured out. So we are in interesting times. I don't know.
I want to also
to
show
quote a phrase.
your website or your YouTube channel.
My YouTube channel is where I put a lot of my work. There's that. It's a lot of interviews. As you just scroll past the interview through, there's one with Joe Dispenza. I just did one on the Iconic Takeover, something I've been studying a lot. Paul Lowe's an old friend, lots of UFO stuff. I have this whole UFO panel discussion thing, and there's something there with Edgar Mitchell.
There's Matt Kahn.
Yes, I'm hosting the Contact in the Desert panel there in the middle there. Freddie Silver was a great interview. JJ Hertog and Desiree have been longtime guests on the show. So
thank you.
I actually clicked the UFO panel there. But anyway, it's New Realities. Go to youtube.com/New Realities. So many amazing interviews and so much great work that both of you have been doing for a very long time.
Right. And you can order my book, Making Contact, online on Amazon. I think I'll put a link in the chat. And Scott, it's always fun to do these things with you. This is probably our 5th or 6th or 7th time.
And we just scheduled, we're going to do our next one together on September 7th. Will be the next Making Contact with Alan. So looking forward to creating that with you.
There's lots of things happening in the disclosure world right now. Danny Sheehan is in Washington, really fighting for UFO disclosure. Lou Elizondo, who was one of the first whistleblowers to come forward, is releasing a new book called Eminent. That's already on the bestseller list, and it hasn't even been released. Eminent.
Wow. That's good to know.
Blow it wide open. So, it doesn't matter who's president or whatever, there's a bigger picture coming online, and we're all part of that. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Good point.
Thank you for creating a wonderful show. Thank you. Best of luck on August 3rd. Get me the live stream information. And we're going to do something we've never done in over 500 shows. We're going to play the same video at the beginning, at the end, only Kristin Hoffmann, because she is so magical. What a wonderful way to start and end this show. Here we go with Kristin.
Hello, dear ones of the awakening world. It's such an honor to be with you. I love our topic tonight, transforming the ego mind into infinite possibilities. I think we notice when the ego mind is activated because we experience a lot more separation and fear. When we feel ourselves trying to calculate how we can get ahead or continue to thrive, and a lot of the fears that come up around those subjects, or fearing that, oh, someone's gonna get ahead of us, or get the job that we want, whatnot, we are in the ego mind. And when we're in that mind, we're experiencing a lot of divisiveness. I think it's very important to really go back to the core of our humanity and realize that we are all connected and that we're all in this together. And when we can really start to resonate with that oneness, with the virtues that connect us at the core, immediately all kinds of possibilities open up where we can find greater collaboration with each other, positive possibility, even with people and beings that we would usually think we have nothing in common with, or even who have totally different belief systems from ours. We can begin to synergize and find possibility where when we're in our ego mind, everything is closed off. So I thought I would play this song that I feel is very important for these times. I know I've played it before in the Awakening World, but I just feel like this message couldn't be repeated enough right now. When the hate comes, let there be love. Let's practice this together. When we feel that ego mind, when we feel that separation or even expressions of hate, can we challenge ourselves to open, expand, and let in the love of who we are, the love of our connectivity, and discover the possibilities that exist when we open. Here we go. When the hate comes, let there be love. And when the night falls, let there be peace. And when the dark cloud over our heads releases its grasp on our hearts and our souls, may we remember connected at the core. One people connected at the core of it all. And when the fear comes, let there be love. When the tears fall, let there be peace. And when the violent fist of the lost ones crashes down, breaks our hearts, chains our souls, may we remember connected at the core. of it all. Love you all. Stay connected. Remember your humanity. Remember that when you catch yourself going into that narrow ego mind, all you have to do is remember to open, expand a little bit more. Call in the love, and all of a sudden, infinite possibilities blossom. Blessings.
We are all connected at the core. We truly are.
I think you should play that at the end of every show, Scott. That's so good.
It's so powerful. It is so. I might do that. I actually might play it more often.
Right.
I'm going to bring up all of our key wonderful people. My co-host for tonight, Alan. Thank you so much. Our
Really?
beloved house musical artist, Omashar. And our wonderful new friend, Dr. Tara. What a blessing to meet you and to have you with us. I think Mitchell signed off. And I always let people know what we've got coming up. On Wednesday night, we're going to be providing some wonderful healings for people. We've got several amazing healers with different ways of doing it. Ellie Pichette, Carrie Chinner, Danny Powaski, and we'll conclude with a KES group healing with Norman Love. I know many of you have really enjoyed Norman when he's been with us in the past. So that's going to be on Wednesday night. And have a beautiful few days. Have a beautiful sacred Sunday, everybody. Remember, we can make any moment sacred just by choosing to see the divinity in all. And appreciate seeing the divinity in each and every one of you. I'm going to go to gallery view one last time so we can twinkle each other goodbye. And what another wonderful, beautiful show. Much love to each and every one of you, and I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday night. Good night.